And just like that, folks, we are off with episode number 5, and there is a daddy long leg walking across my floor right now. Just gonna ignore that. But what a week it's been in the world of MMA, the world of combat sports. A lot of crazy things, a lot of big headlines, a lot of shakeups. I think the most notable thing that I think anybody's going to be talking about MMA-wise is going to be the UFC 294 card shakeup. I mean, with the co-main and main event pretty much getting restructured completely to something that I would argue is much better than what was there originally. I mean, in the main event, I would love to see Charles Oliveira fight for the lightweight championship and get that opportunity. I'm a big Charles fan. But to be honest with you, that's a tough fight for Charles. I would much rather see Volkanovski and Makhachev too. Obviously, naturally, this probably wouldn't have been something that unfolded naturally with this timing. But nonetheless, here we are. We got it. Also sucks too for Mateusz Gamrot. He was supposed to be the backup fighter for the main event between Charles Oliveira and Islam. Got screwed there pretty badly. I mean, I don't know what to say, or not that I have anything to say, but what the UFC can say about that, because that's obviously pretty crappy when you're cutting weight, going through a training camp as the backup fighter, and then the main event pulls out in a championship fight. So you're like, okay, this is my opportunity. This is kind of what I was hoping would happen. And then you get told, nope, actually, you're not going to be fighting. That sucks. So hate to have that happen for Mateusz Gamrot, but the main event and then the co-main event with Khamzat Chimaev, Kamaru Usman, that is an insane fight. A fight that I thought I would have saw happen at 170 when Kamaru was the champion. Nonetheless, we're getting it at 185. I think the fight happening at 185 heavily favors Khamzat with the size and weight advantage. I'm going to get into predictions for all that for the card here in a little bit. I don't want to jump around too much. We also had the news of the USADA and UFC split. USADA was trying to put that on Conor McGregor, saying that the reason that the UFC and USADA were splitting was because the Conor McGregor situation with USADA getting back in the testing pool, and Conor's very clearly on steroids, got out of the testing pool. And I don't know what to make of that situation. I haven't really listened to too much of what I saw. Hunter Campbell was speaking with Jeff Nowitzki. They were talking about that and said that basically what they did was disgusting and like unfair to Conor. Apparently they were just using Conor as a media pawn, as basically somebody to put the blame on because Conor's a controversial person. If that's the case, that's obviously very, very shady on USADA's part. That wouldn't necessarily surprise me with how people like to leverage media and headlines and that sort of stuff. But I don't know. It's interesting. I know that they announced that they're going to be doing I forget the name of the new program, but it's supposed to be a pretty legitimate program. So hopefully it'll end up being much better than USADA. But we'll see. Conor's back in the drug testing. He's back, going to be fighting in the UFC. And that's, I think as fans, what we want to see. Love him or hate him, you want to see Conor McGregor fight. And if you don't, you're probably not really an MMA fan, to be quite honest with you. I go back and forth with how I feel about Conor. If I think I'm a Conor fan, I would say a few years ago, back when he was like 2014, 2015, 2016, I wasn't that big of a UFC fan, but I would say I was a Conor fan back then. I wasn't as big of a UFC fan as I am now. I've been a UFC MMA fan since I was like probably 6-7 years old, but heavily got into it. I think the main two pivotal fights that made me really get into the UFC heavily: Dominic Cruz, Cody Garbrandt, which I think was in 2016, and Edson Barboza and Khabib Nurmagomedov, which I think was around that same time frame as well, 2015, 2016. Those two fights, I became an instant fan of Cody Garbrandt, and I became an instant fan of Khabib. Cody Garbrandt, obviously, that was the peak of his career. I hate to say it, but that was the best he looked, because after that it was a tough skid of losses. But Khabib obviously ended up going on to win the title, had a dominant little reign. I think he kind of retired early, but obviously he had his personal situation going on with his family, so can't really knock him for that. But
I'm interested to see how this new program shakes out. If it ends up being better than USADA, if we see some people on testosterone, I wonder if they'll allow people to start taking testosterone. I mean, if we get like a testosterone John Jones, a TRT John Jones, that'd be interesting. You know, I've seen pictures go around of like basically people putting John Jones's body on, or Alistair Overeem's body with a John Jones head on it. Like, that'd be kind of crazy to see. But I don't know. I doubt that. I doubt that's gonna happen. I doubt it's probably gonna be pretty much the same as how USADA was. Fights this past weekend, we had the first, the Dylan Dennis, the Prime Boxing card, Dylan Dennis, Logan Paul, KSI, Tommy Fury. To be honest with you, I watched a good amount of the prelims, a good amount of the main event, or the main card, the undercard fights under the co-main and main. That was probably one of the best. That was the best YouTube boxing card I've seen, period. Hands down, I'm not gonna lie. That was also one of the best boxing cards, undercards I've seen in a long time. I was quite impressed with the skill level of some of those guys for being influencers or whatever it may be. Some of those guys, a few people that stand out in terms of names was the Tempo Arts guy, the heavyweight, the guy that won the heavyweight. I don't think he should have won, but he impressed me. Kind of reminded me of like an Andy Ruiz type of guy. Dean the Great, I think. He looked really, really good against, I forget the other gentleman's name, but he looked really, really good. I mean, he looked like he should have knocked that other gentleman out. I think that guy that he was fighting was like 19 years old, so props to him because he was very, very tough. He looked good in the first round, hurt Dean the Great really bad, like looked like he almost knocked him out like the first 3 seconds. Then fight ended up turning around and Dean the Great put it on this young kid. But props to both of them. That was a very, very high-level fight. I don't know too much about these guys. I don't know if they actually have a legitimate boxing background. I would assume they do. With the way both those guys were fighting, they have to have trained for a long time. Like, they were good. Slim and Salt Poppy, that was a good fight as well. Pretty high level between guys that are influencers. The Dylan Dennis Logan Paul fight was atrocious. Like, the whole build-up, I actually, outside of like all the shenanigans with Logan's fiance, in terms of like interviews and just Dylan opening up more, I kind of became a Dylan Dennis fan. Like, him just kind of being himself, letting his guard down in a lot of interviews made me a fan. And then he shows up and puts on that kind of performance, and I'm just like, what? Like, why did I waste my time and money watching this? Because, like, I don't know. It was interesting to say the least. I would say the most excitement was that last round with him just trying to put him in guillotines, take him down, swinging at security guards, a brawl breaking out. That was crazy, but I don't know. Very disappointing. I'd love to actually see if they do the MMA fight, because I think Dylan would actually, I mean, I genuinely think Dylan could beat him in under 60 seconds. Just Imanari rolls, takes a leg. Logan is at too much of a deficit. I don't care if he wrestled. I don't care if he's been doing jiu-jitsu here and there for the past 2-3 years. It does not matter. Dylan Dennis is a black belt. He's a black belt under Marcelo Garcia. Yeah, I'm not even going to get into that because that's just ridiculous. But I'd love to see it, though. I'd like to actually see it because, like I said, I kind of became a Dylan fan. But, yeah. The main event, the Tommy Fury KSI fight, I didn't really see too much of that. I saw bits and pieces. Seemed like KSI was doing pretty well after the fight. The announcers, the way people were reacting, made it seem like KSI had actually won, which was surprising to me. Like I said, I didn't watch the fight too much. Like, I was bouncing around, doing other things. But if KSI actually did win that fight, I might actually go, I don't know if it's worth my while, but I may, if I get bored and, have nothing better to do, I might go back and rewatch that fight and actually see if KSI won that fight. Because if he did, for Tommy Fury being somebody that has a legitimate elite boxing background, coming from the family that he comes from, having the boxing experience and a much stronger boxing, not that it's an impressive boxing record, but he has more boxing experience. He's had more fights. That would be impressive for somebody like KSI, who's a YouTuber, influencer type of guy, who's only been boxing for the past few years, and it doesn't come from the same background. That's impressive. But it was in England, so actually they're both from England, so I really don't know if that matters, but maybe they gave it to Tommy Fury because some people in the know in the boxing community that work on that commission were doing some favors for the Fury. But like I said, I'd have to go back and watch that and see if there was some shady judging going on. But nonetheless, undercard fights pretty solid. Main, co-main, and main, definitely co-main whack. Main, can't really say much on it because I didn't see it, but was impressed with that fight card. And then the Barboza and Sadiq Yusuf card, very, very, thinking about the prelims, I don't think there was really much that stood out to me, like kind of a lackluster card. First fight, the Yoder Ducot fight, the cuts on Ashley Yoder were pretty nasty, but fight didn't really stand out too much to me. Chris Gutierrez got the dub as well. I don't think that fight was really, I mean, he chewed him up with the leg kicks, but nothing super crazy. The only really fights that stood out to me from the prelims were the Terrence McKinney. He had that 20-second knockout, just ran across the cage, threw a flying knee, knocked the guy out, TKO'd him with some punches and a knee. And then Darren Elkins against TJ Brown. Darren Elkins ended up getting the third round submission. It's a plus 170 underdog. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Darren Elkins. He's obviously got a very, very tough style. He just wears on you. Look, his grappling is phenomenal. Like, if this guy was 10 years younger and had this grappling capability, didn't have as much damage that he's taken, he would be a serious problem in the featherweight division. Like, his grappling is insanely good. The way he scrambles, the way he moves through positions, just flows through, chains things together. Very, very impressive win by Darren Elkins. Christian Rodriguez, Cameron Simon, that was a very, very good back and forth fight. Andre Petrosky and Michel Pereira. Michel Pereira getting the first round knockout. That was pretty impressive. Looked good at middleweight. Looks like he's packing a lot more power, a lot more punch. His frame looked much larger for somebody that looked very, very big at welterweight. Looked pretty big at middleweight, so I was impressed with that. Jonathan Martinez, another very impressive performance. Those leg kicks, that style, that Factory X style, and especially Jonathan Martinez's leg kicks are so heavy, they're so deadly, they're so brutal. Adrian Yanez's leg was done by the halfway point of the first round. I mean, the thud, that's two people now that he's TKO'd in a row with leg kicks. Jonathan Martinez is a problem. I'm actually very excited to see who he fights next. He's got some very, very good, very, very strong, powerful striking. Can't really recall too many fights that I've seen much of his grappling, but I would like to see him, fight somebody that's anybody in the top 10 in the bantamweight division is going to be a problem. So I'm really interested to see what his next fight will be, and if he does get tested, maybe fights an Umar Nurmagomedov type of person. Jennifer Maia, Viviane Araújo. Araújo got the unanimous decision. And then in the main event, Sadiq Yusuf, Edson Barboza. What a first round. Sadiq Yusuf looked like he 10-8'd Edson Barboza on every scorecard in the first round. Looked like he was on his way to it was a matter of time before he was going to finish Edson Barboza. Second round ends up coming through. Edson Barboza really turns it on the second, third, fourth, fifth. Edson Barboza carried it all the way through. End up beating Sadiq Yusuf pretty much 4-1. How I saw it. I think that's how all the judges scored it. I can't remember. But end up getting a unanimous decision. Edson Barboza looked phenomenal coming in at, I don't know how old he is. He's late 30s. Was an underdog in this fight against a very tough guy in Sadiq Yusuf, a very powerful striker. That was a very impressive performance and a very impressive comeback by Edson Barboza. It's just tough because, I don't really see him competing for a featherweight championship. So it's I feel like he's just going to be in this weird floater position where they just keep feeding him to young guys. Maybe he'll beat some, maybe he'll lose to some. But just to give people an opportunity at a ranking. Interesting, though, nonetheless. I'm curious to see what the next move is for Edson Barboza. Moving on to next weekend, the talk of the town, UFC 294, the Volkanovski-Makhachev 2 card. Let me go through the full card here. First fight is Shara Magomedov versus Bruno Silva. I believe Shara is the one-eyed gentleman that the UFC signed. Apparently, dude is very, very skilled. I'm interested to see, how he matches up against Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva's a pretty tough guy. Alex Pereira couldn't even finish Bruno Silva, I'm pretty sure. So we'll see how that shakes out. Then you have Jinu Fry and Victoria Dudakova. that'll be an interesting fight. I might go with Dudakova. Nathaniel Wood and Muhammad Naimov. I remember seeing Muhammad Naimov on the Contender Series, I believe, and he was very, very good. But I'm gonna go with my fellow last name, twin, Nathaniel Wood. I'm gonna back him. He's a pretty solid favorite, but I really wouldn't be surprised if Naimov won. Mike Breeden and Ajnul Jubli. Jubli, if I remember, is a pretty tall dude fighting at 155. This will be an interesting fight, but I'm probably going to be leaning towards Mike Breeden. Abu Azatumar and Cedric Dumas. Cedric Dumas is I remember his debut, he looked very, very lackluster. I was like, this guy is going to be out of the UFC in no time. Second fight the UFC comes around was very, very, very impressive. I think maybe, I don't know if he just wasn't taking it serious the first time around or whatever, but he definitely looked like he was taking things serious. The second fight, I think he could finish Abu Azatar. I think somebody will get finished in this fight, but I'm going to be leaning towards Dumas, the American here. Javid Bashrat and Victor Henry. Victor Henry has got a very funky, very weird style. Bashrat, obviously, a good, young, up-and-coming fighter. I'm going to be leaning towards Bashrat, but I think this is going to be a very exciting fight. A lot of these prelims are pretty good. Muhammad Yahya and Trevor Peek. I've never seen Muhammad Yahya. I'm assuming he's making his UFC debut. Trevor Peek is tough as nails, just brawls. Leaves a lot of openings, not very defensively sound. If Muhammad Yahya is like the least bit technical and has some power to his striking, I think he could finish Trevor Peek. But Trevor Peek usually just drags people into a brawl, eats their best shot because he's just insanely tough, and then eventually makes you gas out and ends up TKOing you or beating you just because you can't keep up with this guy's insane base. But I'm going to probably lean towards Muhammad Yahya just because I don't personally believe that Trevor Peek's style is that sustainable in the shark pool that's the UFC. Tim Elliott, Muhammad Makayev. I'm going to be leaning towards Muhammad Makayev, but I really wouldn't be surprised if Tim Elliott pulls off the upset here. He's got a very weird style, and he's pulled off a lot of upsets recently. Saeed Nurmagomedov and Muin Gafurov. This is an interesting fight. Part of me really wants to lean towards Gafurov, the other Tajikistan fighter. But I don't know. Saeed Nurmagomedov is obviously very, very tough. Had a very good performance against Cody Stamen, I believe, when he had the I forget what it was. It's some sort of guillotine, but it was like in the first round of a takedown. Nurmagomedov, though, makes me nervous because sometimes he's failed me. Like when I bet on him as a big favorite, he's lost some fights. It looks like he gasses out. I'm going to probably lean towards Gafurov just for the value here. I think it's going to be a pretty evenly matched fight. Ikram Aliskerov and Warley Alves. I would be leaning towards Ikram Askarov. On the UFC website, they have Aliskerov as a plus 100 underdog, which is kind of crazy to me. If that's the case, I would be hammering that value. Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. Interesting fight. Magomed Ankalaev is obviously a very technically sound striker. Has the Dagestani wrestling as well, but I would say probably his strong suit is his striking. Johnny Walker's strong suit is striking as well. Probably has much more power than Ankalaev, but I think if Ankalaev can just stay disciplined, stay away from Johnny Walker's power, I think he can cruise to a decision. Maybe it takes him down and TKOs him, but I would be leaning towards Ankalaev. Kamaru Usman, Khamzat Chimaev. As I mentioned, I think the weight class favors Khamzat Chimaev. It's also interesting to note that this is Kamaru Usman's first 3-round fight in a very long time, since like 2018, 2019. So, I mean, he could really put on a pace here against Khamzat, keep up with Khamzat's pace, considering that he's got a very good gas tank, and he's been doing 5-round fights, so 3 rounds should be absolutely nothing to him. I think he'll have the wrestling to keep up with Khamzat. Who knows? But I think if Khamzat is significantly bigger, if he looks much, much bigger than Kamaru, I wouldn't be surprised if he ragdolls of Kamaru a little bit. I think we could see shades of the Gilbert Burns and Khamzat fight, but I don't think not nearly as close. I still think Khamzat pretty easily wins this fight. It feels weird saying that, but I think weight class, 3-round fight, I think I'm leaning towards Khamzat. Nonetheless, though, it would be very cool to see Kamaru win this fight, get the title shot against Sean Strickland, and then going back down, getting the welterweight belt. That would be impressive. But we'll see how that shakes out. Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. This is interesting because Volkanovski has taken this fight on 11 days notice. So I mean, I'm assuming he's probably been training, but gas tank, that's questionable. Volkanovski is obviously known for having a pretty strong gas tank, but how much can you prepare for that level of grappling and that much grappling in 11 days? We'll see though. We'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, I'm not sure who I'm leading. I would like to see Volkanovski get the dub, but I don't know. That's a tough fight. I'm a bigger Volkanovski fan than I am a Makhachev fan. But we'll see how this shakes out. Let me know in the comment section below what your guys' predictions are. How do you guys see this shaking out? I think this is going to be an insane card. This is much better than what was previously planned. And I don't know. I'm very interested to see. It's an early card too, so make sure you stay tuned and you don't miss out on these fights. Expect it to be late. Let me know in the comment section below who you guys are taking. Like, comment, subscribe. I also have a new video coming out here soon. How to get better at jiu-jitsu. So if any of you guys are thinking about getting into jiu-jitsu, if you just start out in jiu-jitsu, this would be a good video for you. I know I need to get new lights as well. I got half of them on, half of them off. Yeah, I know. Kind of looks weird, but yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm out of topics. I'm out of things to talk about. I hope you guys enjoyed, though. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Till next time, I'll catch you guys later.